This is our oil pastel techniques sampler assignment. We are going to start by creating a value scale using one color. You're going to use just white and black to darken and lighten. So the blue is kind of a middle value, so I'm putting it in the middle. And then I'm going to add a little bit more blue. I'm not using quite as much pressure. And then I'm going to add a white over the top and blend it together. So when you're using your colors, make sure you wipe them off, because sometimes they'll have other old colors on them. So I'm just kind of swirling it around. I could go up and down strokes, it doesn't matter really. So you just want it a little bit lighter, and then the end one I'm going to barely scrape the paper and add white. So it's kind of like you're mixing paint, except it's just in a stick. And then you just want to make sure each value is different than the one next door. So for this one, I'm going to darken that middle one a little bit. All right, so make the darker values. Working with black is pretty tricky. So I'm going to add my blue, and I'm just going to use a little bit of black. So I'm just kind of swirling it in there a little bit. And then I'm going to go back over. So I kind of do 3 layers when I work with oil pastel. So it's kind of a blue sandwich. All right, for the last one, I'm going to add a little bit more black and then again swirl it with the blue. So I started with black this time. And depending on what color you pick, you might need to use more or less. But there we go, dark to light. So the next thing we're going to do is lighten the color with white and then a lighter hue of that color.
Of the same
So
color.
pick a color.
So
and then
look around
pick one
in
that
your
has
oil
a lighter
pastels
version of it as well.
and choose a color that
So
has
I kinda
2 versions
scrambled
of
around
it.
to
So
find
a
my
dark
color.
and
But
a
we're going
light.
to practice lightening it with white versus
So I
a
kind of had
lighter
to look
version
around.
of that
I
color.
didn't grab enough colors, but
So
I ended up
picking
using
a magenta
E red.
And then
So
I'm going to lay use the oil pastel on the paper
in the box.
And then I'm going to add my white.
And then I'm going to lighten it with white.
Again, make
so I'm
sure
just going
you
to
wipe
over
them
it
off
with white.
so you don't have any
essentially
extra
just
colors on
mixing
there
the
you
two
weren't
together.
anticipating.
So with the next one, instead of using white, I'm going to use a lighter color.
And then for the
yes,
next
that is
box,
my cat Dexter in the background.
I'm going to use a pink to lighten it.
Please stop meowing.
So laying
so
down
for the
my
next
magenta,
square,
and I'll also say usually with oil pastels you work dark then light.
Color.
Usually, sometimes I do the opposite.
Instead of white, like I said, I'm going to pick a lighter version. So I'm going to use a pink. So that's kind of a magenta. So a lighter version is pink.
Right, so then lighten.
And then I'm going to mix the two together. So these are 2 different ways.
So I'm having you guys do this
color.
just so you can see there are different ways to blend and lighten your colors. You don't always just have to use white.
All right, so next we're going to do the same thing,
except we're going to darken a
color
now.
So we're going to darken it with black
and then find a darker
and then we're going to darken it with a darker hue.
And then feel free if you need to peel the stick. Sometimes they'll break when you're working with them.
These things do break as you're going along. So if you have one that breaks, that's fine too.
So like I said, usually you want to start with the darker color
light
first.
Layer of black. You want to use black really sparingly because it is just so powerful. And then I'm going to go over it with the light. So,
blue.
you know, traditionally you do light over dark with oil pastel. You can always break the rules, but... and you can kind of see, when you're using black like this, it kind of makes a muddier, kind of grayer color.
And then for the second box,
which might be appropriate sometimes, but there's other ways to darken your colors.
So now, like I keep saying,
so
usually you put the dark
I'm
first.
going to do that light blue again.
First. But I want you to really notice the difference.
And then I'm going to add a dark blue to darken it.
These two. So darkening it with black versus darkening it
and again, usually you would put a dark first,
blue.
but
So you can see when I start with the light,
I'm going to layer it 3
light.
times. So I did a light, the dark blue,
I always
and the
like
light.
to do 3 layers.
So you can see that darker blue is a lot more vibrant than the one on the left. So depending on what you are doing, you might want to pick a different way to darken or lighten your colors. All right, so here we are going to smoothly blend 3 cool colors. So remember, cool colors are your greens, blues, and violets. So just pick any green, blue, and violet.
Any 3. These are all about the same value. And then I'm putting the blue and the green together, and then the blue and the violet together. So I lay down one color, and then I go back over it with the next color. So there's overlap, and then as I let go, I release the pressure so they blend together nicely. You can also use your finger or a piece of tissue paper to blend if you want it even smoother. But I like to do about 3 layers. And you can see they're blended together. It looks a lot better in person. Okay, so then the next is warm. So warms are yellows, oranges, and reds. And you don't necessarily have to do light to dark. You can do whatever you want as long as they're warms. And then I go back over with the yellow to kind of blend it. And again, it's all about pressure too. So I'm like lifting up on that crayon as I get to the middle. And that allows it to have a smooth transition. And again, you can take a tissue paper or Q-tip or anything to blend it if you like. All right, so now we're going to be stippling. So I am going to speed this up a little bit because you don't need to watch me make little dots everywhere. So stippling, remember, is just dots. So I like to start with the darker value, just depending on what colors you pick. So we're stippling warm colors. But you want to try to not have the paper showing. So you want to cover as much as possible, but you also don't want to blend it too much. You want to see those little dots of color because then your eye blends them together. This is a great way to create texture and interest in a part of your drawing. Then you can see the top one with the yellow. I also like to stipple by making little swirls. So you should be able to see all 3 of those colors, but they will be blended a little bit together. This is a really great way to make like leaves on trees, things like that, landscapey things. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing, but with cool colors, so any 3. Remember, cools are blues, violets, and greens. But same idea, you're just going to make little dots. And then you want to make sure that you don't see the paper through. And then I like to use the lightest one on top and use that to kind of blend them together. All right, so the next we're going to do the same thing with warm and cool colors, but we're going to be scumbling. So scumbling is swirly, scribbly lines. And I also really like scumbling. I think it makes a really nice, interesting texture on things. And it's really free form. You could use it to contour around things. And again, you don't want the paper to show through, but you also don't want to overblend. So you should see a little bit of each of those colors. If you do end up overblending, you can always scrape it off and start over. I'm sorry if you hear that sound. That is morning classroom sounds of the building. All right, so then after our last scumble, the last thing we're going to do is a sgraffito. So with sgraffito, you're going to pick a color. It works better if you pick a light color to go underneath. You can also do a blend of colors. It's up to you. So I'm laying down my color, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a layer of black over the top. So when you do this, don't press too hard. You're not trying to mix the colors. You're trying to layer the black, or you could also pick a darker color, over the top. So you don't want to blend them. You want there to be two distinct layers of oil pastel. And then you're going to grab a toothpick, once you get a nice layer of dark over your light, and scratch in any kind of design that you like. Or you can just write your name like me. All right. Once you're done, check in with me so I can give you some feedback. I look forward to seeing your work. Good job.